Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Commander's Forge, an area for me to talk about Magic, Commander, and anything else while I try and navigate through this cluster of what I'm going through right now. Now, my name is Andy Bentley, and that's about it. I am so tired of, everything. I haven't really been in the Magic sphere for like the last month, just because I've been dealing with my car mostly. I do have some things I could talk on. The Commander Sealed is coming up next month in Rochester. I would still like to go. Unfortunately, I don't know if I will have the funds for such a trip. I'm kind of playing that one by ear. I would like to go. It does support two different charities. If you have a chance, you should look it up. I do have nothing else. That's really it. I've been keeping my head down and trying to keep my bank account from overdrafting. Mostly successfully. So, yeah. That's partly why I didn't have an episode last week. Also, I was just in a lot of physical pain last week, and the thought of sitting at my desk and recording anything was torture. So, yay. But yeah, that said, I've got a whole lot of nothing else to talk about right now. So I'm just going to ramble for a little bit longer, and then I'm going to talk about a deck that I've been slowly working on. And that's, it's going to be a really short episode this week. But that's fine. I don't really have any obligations to make long episodes. So, that said, I'll be right back. And welcome back. Now, I want to preface this with the Party Time deck is hella expensive. I was sitting down looking at stuff, and I was like, man, I kind of want to build that. And I was talking to my cousin about it, and I was looking at the deck online, and the cheapest you can find it for is like $94. And I was like, yeah, that's going to go on the back burner for a while. But he told me he had some of basically the singles that I wanted, which was the Face Commander, Nalia de Arnis, and then the one that I wanted to build, which was Burrico's Party Leader with Folk Hero. And he also got me the multi-class Baldric. So, yeah, I ended up... It's still kind of in version 1 where things are liable to get swapped out, but for now, I am running Burrico's Party Leader and Folk Hero as my commander and background. So Burricos is 3 in a black for a 2/4 orc. Burricos is also a cleric, rogue, warrior, and wizard. And then whenever Burricos attacks, defending player loses X life, and you create X treasure tokens where X is the number of creatures in your party. Choose a background. Now, a thing to note about the whole creatures in your party. He can only count for one of them. You can't have multiple creatures count for both or all. So, like, he is not a party by himself. Continuing on. Folk Hero is 1 and a white for a enchantment background. And it says, commander creatures you own have, whenever you cast a spell that shares a creature type with this creature, draw a card. This ability triggers only once per turn. Now, there is a version of this deck where you're running more flash creatures. That wasn't the direction I went. But getting into the other two I've mentioned here, Nalia de Arnis is 1, a white and a black, for a 3/3 human rogue. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast Cleric, Rogue, Wizard, and Warrior spells from the top of your library. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and those creatures gain Death Touch till end of turn. Now, I did think about building her, but I feel like we get just better card advantage with running Burricos and Volcaro instead. And if at some point things feel like they're not working out, I can just swap them around. Now, the multi-class Baldric is a single mana for an equipment. It has equip for 2. The equipped creature has lifelink if you control a cleric, death touch if you control a rogue, haste if you control a warrior, and flying if you control a wizard. As long as you have a full party, prevent all damage that would be dealt to equipped creature. The way this is worded with Burricos is equipped for 1 and he has all of the keyword abilities, just because he is also all of those types. Now again, for the having a full party, you do need 4 creatures, but c'est la vie, I guess. Now, when I first started thinking about this deck, one of the first thoughts I had was shapeshifters. There's a good amount that are in black and white, but I did end up kind of moving away from that idea, though a few of those did end up in the deck, namely Changeling Outcast, which is a single black for a 1/1 shapeshifter with Changeling, can't block, can't be blocked. Mirror Entity, which is 2 and a white for a 1/1 shapeshifter with Changeling, and for X, until end of turn, creatures you control have base power and toughness, XX, and gain all creature types. And the last shapeshifter in the deck is the 3-tree Mascot. It is 2 for a 2/1 artifact creature, shapeshifter with Changeling. You can pay 1 to add 1 mana of any color, activate only once per turn. So you can filter mana through it, and again, it's just another way to get one of our creature types that we're missing. Now, as you might imagine, trying to split a deck between 4 creature types can get a little hectic. And I just kind of was going with what I had on hand. So currently I have 18 clerics, 11 rogues, 8 wizards, and 8 warriors. The problem is I know a lot of them aren't going to be in the final cut of this deck just because, well, one, I just don't have the money to spend on cards right now. And also a lot of the warriors and some of the clerics care about, just having other warriors and clerics. Things that I know are going to get cut out of here are things like the Herald of Dromoka. It's 1 and a white for a 2/2 human warrior with vigilance, and other warrior creatures you control have vigilance. So again, not bad, but only other warriors. Doesn't care about 3 of my other types. Same with Chief of the Edge. Black and a white for a 3/2 human warrior. Other warriors you control get +1/+0. So the way I'm justifying having them in there right now is it does affect our commander. But yeah, honestly, when I have the time to actually sit down and order cards, a lot of the warriors in here care about other warriors. I think there's only one that really doesn't. A lot of those will be getting swapped out for different warriors that actually kind of do what the deck wants to do. And the one that's in the clerics that I can think of is Edgewalker. It's 1, a white and a black for a 2/2 cleric that says cleric spells you play cost a white and a black less to play. This effect reduces only the amount of colored mana you pay. Again, there's 18 total clerics in the deck. So this could still be in the final cut of the deck, but I think it really depends on what all I end up adding, right? So, yeah. Okay, so let's get into some of the stuff that will be in that final deck once I get around to actually being able to order some cards. And I'll go through them in creature order. I will warn you right now that none of the warriors I have currently in the list are slated to be in the final list. But starting with Cleric, we're going to start with Twilight Prophet. 2 black for a 2/4 vampire cleric with flying and ascend. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the City's Blessing, reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. Each opponent loses X life. You gain X life, where X is the card's mana value. Dream Devourer is 1 and a black for a 0/3 demon cleric. Each non-land card in your hand without Foretell has Foretell. Its Foretell cost is equal to its mana cost, reduced by 2. Whenever you foretell a card, Dream Devourer gets +2/+0 till end of turn. The next two are very similar, so we'll do them together. That is the Bishop of Rebirth and the Redemption Choir. The Bishop is 3 white for a 3/4 vampire cleric with Vigilance, and whenever the Bishop attacks, you may return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. The Choir is 2 white for a 3/3 vampire cleric with lifelink, and it has a Coven ability. Whenever the Redemption Choir enters the battlefield or attacks, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now, slight difference. Bishop only hits creatures, and it's only on attack. Choir can trigger when it enters and on attack, and it is not limited to creatures. Anywho, moving right along, we have Bygone Bishop. 2 and a white for a 2/3 Spirit Cleric with flying. Whenever you cast a creature spell with converted mana cost 3 or less, investigate. There's a good chunk of them that are under 3 mana, which is why all 3 of those cards were included. Next up, we have Shadowheart Dark Justiciar. 3 and a black for a 3/4 Human Elf Cleric. For 1 a black and tap, sacrifice another creature. Draw X cards, where X is that creature's power. It also has choose a background, but we're not doing that. Also, clearly this Shadowheart did not choose Redemption. Next up, we have Drana the Last Blood Chief. 3 black for a 4/4 vampire cleric with flying. Whenever Drana attacks, defending player chooses a non-legendary creature card in your graveyard. You return that card to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. The creature is a vampire in addition to its other types. And the final cleric that's here that we're very sure is going to be in the last version of this deck is Pontiff of Blight. 4 black for a 2/7 zombie cleric with Extort. Other creatures you control have Extort. And yeah, that's it for clerics. Next up, we're going to do rogues. Now, the first rogue that's in here that we definitely want to keep is Rankle, Master of Pranks. He is 2 black for a 3/3 fairy rogue with flying and haste. Whenever Rankle deals combat damage to a player, choose any number of the following things. Each player discards a card. Each player loses 1 life and draws a card. Each player sacrifices a creature. So, yeah. He's just really good overall. Next up, we have the Dauthi Voidwalker. It is black for a 3/2 Dauthi Rogue. It has Shadow. If a creature would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, instead exile it with a void counter on it. You can tap and sacrifice Dauthi Voidwalker to choose an exiled card an opponent owns with a void counter on it. You may play it this turn without paying its mana cost. I just realized that can hit lands because it doesn't say cast, it says play. Next up is just a plucky little rogue. It's the Zhentarim Bandit. 1 and a black for a 2/1 halfling rogue. Whenever it attacks, you can pay a life. If you do, you make a treasure token. And it's just that really sweet, simple utility that makes me want to keep this card around. I've got 2 more in this category. The first one is Morbid Opportunist. 2 and a black for a 1/3 human rogue. Whenever 1 or more creatures die, draw a card. This ability triggers only once per turn. And the final rogue that's in here that's going to stay in here is the Nighthawk Scavenger. 1 black for a 1+ star 3. So it's a vampire rogue. It has flying, death touch, lifelink, and its power is equal to 1 plus the number of card types among cards in your opponent's graveyards. So yeah. And the stack of wizards that are in here that are definitely going to be in here at the end is not great. But that said, first up we have Viscera Seer. Single black, 1/1. Vampire wizard. Sack a creature, scry 1. Works very well with Moira, Urborg Haunt, which is 2 and a black, for a 3/2 spirit wizard with Menache. Whenever she deals common damage to a player, you can return to the battlefield target creature card in your graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn. Yeah. And finally, the last wizard that's in here that's definitely going to be in here at the end is Magus of the Coffers. 4 and a black for a 4/4 human wizard. For 2, tap, add black to your mana pool for each swamp you control. So again, I will preface this with, yes, this deck is built. No, this deck is not in its final iteration. There's a lot of this that I'll say over the next 2 months probably, when I can save up some money, will slowly change into what I actually want it to be. But having it built to the point where I can play it and test it out is always a good thing. So if you're holding off on building a deck because you're having that thoughts of, oh, I don't know if this is what I want, just put it together. If you need to use a couple proxies, go ahead. Use a couple proxies. Test the deck out. Take it for a test drive. And then tweak it from there. And yeah, that's all I got. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. All of my links can be found in my link tree in the description below. I would like to thank Ian Foss and Cody Mulpey of the band The Crypt for allowing me to use music for my opening and ending, along with Nate and Erica Jacobs for making my original logo. And I would also like to thank Christina McNichol for creating my new logo. And I'll see you next time.